r/pro revenge. Racist boss harassed Puerto Rican employees and broke labor laws. Ended up getting deported. I worked at a fairly well-known restaurant in a small northern New England city as an assistant manager. The owners were very successful restaurateurs with several successful, non-chain establishments, and spent maybe a day or two a month in our location. The rest of the time there was a general manager in charge. We'll call her Jan. Jan was about as type A as they come. She was a middle-aged woman, but beautiful and petite, and she always looked put together and primed. Jan had started with the owners a decade earlier in their first restaurant as a server and had worked her way up to general manager over the years. At first I just thought she had extremely high standards, which I respected. I have high standards as well and take pride in my work. I had been impressed by how the kitchens were spotless. The staff was immaculate, like run a white gloved hand under the back of the oven and it comes back white kind of clean. And the food was always top quality. I had frequently been a customer and was thrilled that I got the job there. I had been in the business for a decade and that restaurant was the place in our area. I was so excited. Unfortunately, I quickly learned why everything is so shining and perfect. Jan was a tyrant. She was the kind of boss who soured the mood of the entire staff like a storm cloud hovering over us that never went away. Nothing was ever good enough and the standards changed from day to day. On a good day, she would shut herself up in the office and then leave early. Good days were very rare and could turn into bad days at the drop of a dime. On bad days you couldn't be perfect enough and she would come up with new rules and regulations just to punish people. If a host called out sick, they were literal children. She would berate them on the phone and make them cry. If a cook made a mistake on a plate, she would humiliate them in front of the staff, accuse them of doing it on purpose and then give us all the silent treatment for hours after. Seriously, if someone's cash out was off, even by a few cents, she would accuse them of theft and force me to cut down their hours. As a fellow manager, I was mostly spared her awful behavior, though I had to hear about her treatment from my staff almost every day. All of this was just run-of-the-mill bad boss stuff until it came time for our yearly staff evaluation meetings. This is where Rahul enters the story. Rahul was a hard-working dishwasher who had moved to our state from Puerto Rico a few years earlier and spoke English with some difficulty. Whenever I had to go over anything official with him, we would have a co-worker translate between us to be sure we were both communicating clearly. Jan refused this courtesy to Rahul. This made his evaluation pretty difficult. Rahul managed to communicate to us that due to recent cuts in his hours, he would be forced to get a second job to pay the bills. Something about this absolutely set Jan off. She told him she would fire him if he dared. I could see plainly on the intake paperwork in front of me that Rahul had been hired with the understanding that it would be a full-time position. So I pointed that out. Jan was furious, but agreed through gritted teeth that if Rahul agreed not to get a second job, she would bump his hours up to at least 35 hours a week. It was stated as clear as day and I documented it in my daily manager logbook. Work went on as usual after that and I didn't think much of this meeting again for a few months. Another time a while later, while filing out information for tax returns, Jan called me into the office. I could tell she had pulled the tiny room apart looking for something. All the information about our Puerto Rican employees is gone. She told me with a mixture of panic and suspicion. I looked at the files in question and they all seemed to be in order, so I was confused and told her I couldn't help. A few minutes later I walked back in the office to find her arguing with Rosa, our most talented chef and a Puerto Rican native. Rosa was perfectly fluent in English. No Rosa. Jan was speaking to Rosa as though she were hard of hearing or mentally slow. Where is your green card? What are you talking about? Rosa was confused. Are you an illegal or something? Is that why one of you broke in here? To hide the proof, Jan wasn't yelling, but her eyes were cold and flashing with rage. What? Rosa was starting to get angry now. It suddenly clicked for me, so I interrupted. Jan, you do realize that Puerto Rico is a United States territory, right? Of course I know that. Jan snapped back. Okay, so you know that Rosa has a social security number like any other American native. Oh, right. Never mind Rosa. You can go back to work. Jan did not apologize for accusing Rosa of theft. I was so done with this place after that. Jan did all kinds of little things like that and she never apologized. I had already gotten a job offer for a place closer to my house when the final straw came. I was the closing manager one day and got in just before the dinner rush to see Rahul storming out the back door. He didn't speak much English, but his ducking beach was very clear. Jan had lied about raising his hours to 35 per week. So Rahul had gotten the second job he talked about. When Jan found out, she fired him. But not before saying something about how all you illegals are the same. She was really fixated on these American citizens being illegal aliens for some reason. Shrugged by this point, I ducking hated this woman too. She once told me my clothing made me look poor in front of the whole staff. I was wearing what she made me wear. Meanwhile she wore open-toed shoes behind the line, which is against the health codes. And once a fake nail fell off into the coleslaw and she wouldn't let anyone toss it out after she retrieved it. This is just the tip of the iceberg. But I have a life to live. Since I knew I would be leaving soon anyway, I told Ahole he should go after our boss for wrongful termination since I had documented proof, with Jan's signature, that he had been promised more hours and that Jan had broken the agreement. Not Rahul. The last time I saw Jan was on my way out of Rahul's lawyer's office after giving a deposition about several labor laws she had violated. At least the ones that I knew about. Apparently there were many others she had broken in front of other employees. She couldn't even look me in the eye. The best part? At my deposition I learned that Jan was actually the one who was illegally in the country. Her green card had recently expired. She was Canadian. She ended up being sent back to Canada as a result of this case and no one has heard from her since. Rahul was granted 6 months of unemployment pay, plus the restaurant had to pay his legal fees. They closed that location not long after. Maybe they should hire their managers more carefully next time. Jan, if you're reading this, I hope you got your shit together. I also hope you learn to wear closed-toe shoes behind the line. You wouldn't want to end up a huge, gigantic duck up due to your own negligence. Now would you? Kid used laser pointer on me got destroyed by a big stage light. Hi Reddit. After reading so many posts here, I might as well share my own story. Please excuse my poor grammar as English is not my first language. A bit of background. I live in an area where new apartments are arranged in such a way that all a common area, garden, is surrounded by all the buildings. I can see the windows of the opposite building. It was August of 2018. I was minding my own business on my computer, doing my university club stuff. Suddenly I noticed a green dot appeared on my screen out of nowhere. I thought my monitor was broken, but then the green dot started moving. It was drawing some sort of pattern on my wall behind the monitor. It was a laser pointer. I figured it might be some grade school kid having too much energy during summer break, so I just let it go. I closed my curtain and went back to my business. However, it was only the beginning of a long chapter. Every single day the green dot appeared as punctually as the train in Japan. I grew a bit irritated after a few times. Especially the pattern looked like a dong when I stared at it for enough time. Something needs to be done about this. I like natural sunlight and I could not just close my curtain all day long. The first thing is to determine where it came from. I took out a binocular and started searching. I saw this young boy using a laser pointer in his hand and holding a binocular. He points the laser pointer directly into my binocular as a nasty greeting. It was so painful that it took a good 5 minutes to recover. I managed to take some pictures with my sunglasses on. I thought everyone has done some stupid things to piss people off at some point in their childhood. I was no exception either, but my parents taught me good manners and how not to be a jerk to other people. Sometimes the hard way. Being a decent human being. I decided to have a word with the kid and his parents first, and I thought that would be the end of it. Oh boy, I was naive. I confronted the kid who wouldn't open the door after I knock. Instead, he ran away to get his father. I talked politely about everything his kid did to me while trying to hold my anger and keep my voice low. He was having none of it and asked me to prove it, so I took out my phone and showed him the pictures. He went from 0 to 100 in just 1 second. He cursed at me and demanded that I delete the pictures because it infringed their privacy. He even tried to grab my phone. Seeing things escalated quickly, I agreed to delete them without mentioning my phone has a cloud backup and the recycle bin function. I managed to get out of there while the father still cursing at me in front of his kid. Well, if you treat me like a piece of shit and have absolutely no regard for your child's development, I have to step in and teach both of you how to be nice and not to be a jerk to people. First, I made a complaint to the property management office. They said they received a ton of similar complaints but they couldn't do much. Well, it's game on then. I have a nice buddy at filming school. I brought this up. He was quite interested and decided to join in. He said he just finished filming a short movie earlier than the schedule. They can keep the equipment for a bit longer since the lease did not until 1 week later. There was a big ass stage lighting among them. We hatched a plan once we saw the stage lighting. It was kind of light you would find in the city center and all sorts of events, concerts. It was very focused and extremely bright so I would not disturb other neighbors near them. My buddy asked his friend if he could help us out in this and he was totally in for us. On the D-Day, we set up the stage light shining directly on their bedroom window. It was programmed in such a way that it would turn on intermittently at night. You screw my day, I screw your sleep. The first night went by. I saw they installed an extra curtain but my friend had another trick. We only flashing white light on his bedroom at this point. My friend did not tell us that the light is actually RGB so you can have any color. This is the cherry on the cake. Now they could have an involuntary disco party every night. They tried kicking my door at first and I simply didn't answer. They became a bit more polite after a few days and knocking my door. I didn't answer either. It was until they left a very apologetic note and willing to come back and apologize for the inconvenience I opened my door on their next visit. I tried so hard not to burst into laughter when I saw the dark circles around their eyes. They said they were very sorry about what happened to me and promised it would never happen again. They even brought me some snacks as compensation. I didn't take it because I thought they have learned their lessons. There were no more incidents for that summer break. Neighbor is an a-hole so I caused a potentially catastrophic rift in his marriage. So this happened a couple weeks ago. But I saw the result of it earlier today. A bit of backstory. I live in a predominantly Mormon area and I am not Mormon. I received quite a bit of criticism from my across the street neighbor because of the religious difference I'm assuming. We've never interacted before he's started ducking with me. He currently has 10 children. About a month ago, on trash day, he told one of his kids to kick my trash can over into the street. The kid did it, and I witnessed everything. This is not the first time he has kicked my trash over, and I figured it was a lost cause to go over there and ask them for some decency more than I already have. That same day, I was reminded by a friend about how I used to have a pen pal when I was younger before I moved. Later that night, I was browsing the web looking for a pen pal when I stumbled across a cool sounding site, prisonpalpals.com. I visited the site and, after clicking through a few dodgy links, was brought to an array of different prisoners who were looking for a pen pal. After doing a bit of browsing from there, I stumbled across a fellow who was on death row for first-degree murder. Feeling bad for this guy, but not wanting to give my address out, you send an email. The guards print it out and give it to the prisoner, who then write you a letter and delivers it to your physical address. I remembered the a-hole across the street, more out of curiosity than malice. I proceeded to write a very detailed letter about how I am a trapped, secretly gay Mormon man with 10 kids who is looking to start an extramarital affair with a prisoner. I puts in his address and send. I had my hilarious, petty satisfaction. I expected nothing to come out of this. Either he would be going through his mail, see the letter, not open it, toss it and think nothing of it after that. But boy, was I wrong. Of course. With it being a small town, this guy does run a small business here where one of my acquaintances works. I went in just earlier today and chatted with my acquaintance before he told me, oh my god, did you hear about neighbor? I said no because I hadn't and he filled me in on all of the details. Apparently one of the neighbor's kids had brought in the mail, only for his wife to find it and read a letter from this prisoner responding to the joke letter that I wrote. I don't know the specifics of the letter, but I do know that his wife threw a ducking fit when he arrived home and made him pack his bags. My acquaintance informed me that this was not the first time neighbor had started or tried to start an affair with another man, and apparently this was the last straw for her. I am still shocked, horrified, and extremely amused by this predicament. Too long didn't read. I sent a prisoner looking for a pen pal a letter under my neighbor's first name and address. When the letter came back, His wife found it and accused him of cheating on her with a man, as he had apparently done before, and kicked him out. Edit. Grammar. Clarity. Apparently this post is going down and back up randomly. I posted the same thing to r/Tifu in post history and several people have screenshotted the story. So it's relatively easy to find if it appears to be down. Edit 2. I've seen some comments saying this guy didn't deserve it just by kicking over a trash can. So here are some more details. I'm the guardian of my younger sister. I got her a cat about a year ago and the neighbor told me that the cat is not allowed on his side of the road. Okay, whatever. A couple days later the guy called animal control on the cat because it was wandering on the sidewalk in front of his house. They said they couldn't do anything since it wasn't on his property. So neighbor takes the cat and drops it off at the animal shelter, pretending it's his, and tells them to put it down. They refuse without the papers and she's chipped. It's a whole situation. On the day they moved in, my little sister made them brownies and took them over, knocked on the door and waited. They didn't answer. So little sister wanders back across the road and, when she gets to our front porch, looks back to watch the father look her dead in the eyes as he's throwing the treats, plate and all, into the garbage. Other petty bullshit acts besides these, etc. Bro, you made it to the end? You're a ducking mad lad. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content. It's free and that's a great price.